Hey everyone, welcome to TRS. We are live. We're going to talk about your startup, Tribela.
Let's do that.
I'm going to start with, you're close to launch. Tell us what Tribela is and what it's going to be.
Well, what it's going to be, it's a little bit delayed on the launch, so it's not launching quite yet. But basically, I wanted to look at what was happening on social media. And I love social media. I think connecting humans is one of the most beautiful things. But I do think that there are some specific negative externalities that we're seeing as a result of some of the things that are happening on social media. I had a situation with my own family, with my children on social media. And I started looking at it going, okay, well, we need something more positive. What is this? What's going on? Why?
We do.
And I started digging into it, and I'm sure you guys can appreciate this also being from tech, is that with every prompt, with every feature on a
Did I freeze?
No, it's on mine too. Oh, there she is. She's
back. Like everyone went away. That there's a design feature, there's a programming behind those negative externalities from what I felt. So when we're looking at addiction and we're looking at algorithms and the data collection and how those are interworked, there's ways that we can really isolate each negative aspect of social media, whether it's, the sextortion we're seeing in teenagers. Well, what's onboarding looking like? How are people being vetted going on the site? When we're seeing spreading of misinformation, a lot of times it's like bot accounts, fake accounts, anonymous accounts. So they were doing a lot of the harm. So the long and the short is Tribela has identified a lot of these negative externalities, a lot of these negative things that we're hearing about, and really taking agency and saying, okay, well, we can change this. So what I've developed is a platform that has a lot more security, a lot more safety. And I'm looking at it from my media background and saying, okay, why don't we have like a family channel style social media? I can really appreciate, what X is doing, free speech, all of that. But we do need a place that's designed for the younger user as well, that are primarily on these platforms going kind of unregulated. So a place where people know it's going to be a little bit more regulated, and it's also going to have more security so that it doesn't have the amount of bots and fake accounts, phishing scams. My mom thinks she's in a relationship with Andrew Ryu. So, being able to look at all of these things. And so I've come up with a platform that I feel really identifies these negative aspects, and it creates a whole new experience where I've gone against a lot of the grain that the industry puts forward. I've put in friction. So, it's not super easy to onboard.
No.
It is easy, but it takes a little bit of time. You can't just fast swipe and connect people. You go through a series of connections, and within it, there's a lot of wellness things that I've put into it, whether it's affirmations or journaling. We have mentorships instead of influencers. We have different things within the site that are creating a more positive and more community-based relationships. And then, we have the community pages that have more security, more ability to, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a lot of crime happening within the groups on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
There is a lot of porn, and there's a lot of, pedophilia. There's all of these things that are happening in these groups, but groups are amazing. Then you also have your sports team on these groups. You have all this great stuff in groups.
Yeah.
So it's really looking at the positive aspects of social media and looking at how can we design differently to mitigate the risks that we're seeing. And that's what I've created with Tribela.
So if I may ask, I get it might be a trade secret still at this point. How do you plan on tackling the fake account / bot swarms, those outside influencers, perhaps even other nations who want to use your site to get their messages or their chaos across in a lot of cases. Can you tell us how you plan on tackling that?
Well, there's a few layers. Like when I talk about security, I talk about a few layers, but the first initial security measure right now in the prototype of Tribela, we're using like a third-party ID verification and using biometrics and ID verification for that. It's similar, like if you're going to be on Facebook and getting verified, this is very similar, or LinkedIn verified, but we're doing it for everybody that comes on.
Okay. Okay.
So right now, if you're on X or if you're on Facebook, you can choose to be verified.
Right.
But for us, we want the entire platform to be ensured that it's verified. So everybody that comes on to Tribela is verified. Now, it looks a little different in different places, and we're playing around with like a few different things. Like in the EU, we have a digital wallet. What will that look like? You know, as you know, in tech, everything is rapidly advancing. So as things are coming out, we're changing the prototype and how it's going to come out. But that's one of the layers. And then there's constantly, you know, checking for life. You know, there's steps within it. I had consulting from the banking industry. You know, how do you keep banking data safe? How do you keep users safe? And within that was another thing that I wanted to mention is that we've really given the user the control over their experience. So we're not using these excessive algorithms. We're actually creating it so that people can program their own algorithms into the
I would love something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the selling points for me is I like finding, for instance, on Amazon, I like to purchase a book from a new author, their first book, read it, give it an honest review, try to pump it up if there's good things. And, you know, I'm a positive person with new artists. So I'd rarely ever mention even the bad things because I want to encourage them. And it is so hard to find a new author with their first book. Amazon doesn't make it easy to find this. If you want to find a new YouTuber, this channel in particular, YouTube doesn't make it easy to find new things. Things that you're interested in, but I could go to it. I have my own YouTube account. I can't find this show a lot of times, even though I'm subscribed to it.
Absolutely.
And because they want to suggest, hey, this person just built a cabin in the middle of the woods with a stick and a piece of tape. And like, you're like, oh, that's cool. But like, what about the other stuff I'm interested in? And I think the algorithms, I would love to be able to control my own algorithm a little more.
Exactly. And there's ways to do it.
Yeah, and all the times you go, sorry, the algorithm, like you own the program that you call the algorithm, change it.
Exactly. It's just like when user does this, do this, and like an excessive amount. And it's just like, you know, you can put the agency back in the user. Like we want our own control. And I did a lot of research with youth. So I did a lot of surveying, a lot of talking, and, you know, they're like, we want to be able to say, we want to choose. We do have a whole e-commerce part of the site because a lot of the students actually brought this up to me when I didn't have the businesses initially in the prototype. And they said, you know, we're getting scammed on TikTok. We're getting scammed. We're buying stuff and it's like, you know, an influencer is hawking this product. We're buying it. Then it turns out to be a clone account. And, you know, if you can guarantee that the businesses are verified on this platform, we'll come. So I realized that the whole commerce part of it was so important. Also from my age group, when I'm talking to people, they're like, well, we're not really on anymore. But our businesses are. And to really look at it needs the whole community package is so important. And yeah, so I think that giving people the ability to opt in and out of every feature on the platform and to really control their experience on the platform and which shops they want to follow, which ones they don't. You know, the advertising is also based on what you have chosen, like a newsletter to be a part of. And we've really worked that whole experience, putting it back in the user's hands. And it's totally changes the way the experience is. Like you said, you're finding the stuff that you want to find, and it's not shadow banning stuff that's not getting the engagement because people don't even know it's there.
Right. I always like the e-circles model. I don't know if you remember that social media site. YouTube or Yahoo eventually bought them and destroyed it. But Google tried it when they went with their social media platform. A very similar, like you control everything about who your groups are, and it's in a very visual, simple model.
Yeah, I remember.
And I like that with advertisers, and like sometimes you have family and you don't want them to see this joke you just posted, so you don't include them and you drag the circle out. I liked some of that. There's definitely improvements. There's a reason even Google couldn't make their version of it work. But one thing that I've seen that has systematically taken down useful social media websites that were like, even Facebook at the beginning, I was a very early adopter, was very useful and very informative. And when they started getting into the money aspect, specifically with advertisers and marketers, they started bending to the will of what was their cash cow. They were printing money off of the advertisers and selling our data. And I get it from a business perspective. I'm not vilifying them. But they also started, the business modeled what advertising and marketing wanted because they were part of that now. Like it's like, well, if we want to continue to make this money and make these relationships over another startup that could come and do the same thing, we have to do what they say. Do you have plans to avoid that type of, and I'm going to use the word toxic because it can very quickly poison something very positive. Do you have plans on how you're going to avoiding the marketing advertising cash cow that will come beating down your door?
Yeah, well, I think that there's multiple layers of that. When early Facebook, I used to work on campaigns, marketing campaigns, and we used to manually go page by page and post things. It's like spamming, and we would do like surveys and things like that. And I would be so excited when people would give us all of this data. We would be like, oh my God, they gave us all this information. And then Facebook changed to the monetization and advertising. They're like, no, if you want to spam everybody on our platform, we want money for that. So, and then it totally changed how we were able to monetize. I think that, well, first of all, with the platforms like a Meta, like a Facebook right now, you're looking at, yes, there's the data and the advertising, but you're also looking at the manipulation of that data to hyper curate your feeds and your experience based on your attention. And your attention isn't always healthy, and your attention isn't always positive or good for you. And that manipulation really is toxic, as you say. And so with Tribela, it's looking at it, okay, advertising is everywhere. You need to advertise. You need to have, the commerce is what keeps the world, going. But how do you do that health in a holistic and more of a healthy way of looking at it? And that's why I bring it back to the users in control. So essentially look at it as if you're going shopping in a shopping mall. You go into a store. You're like, I like this store. I want a flyer from this store. So if you click and opt into that store can advertise on your feed. That's our initial model. And really giving the user the ability to customize who's able to come to them and who's able to not come to them. And with with the certain features to even opt out of advertising altogether. But we're not using those excessive addictive algorithms that are constantly checking for every single thing that we're doing to monetize our attention. That's where we're really cutting that toxic part off.
Awesome. And I appreciate your efforts on this and your ability to stay out of the way. Dan, did you have a question? Zaz, sorry. You're muted. Of course you are. Yeah. You always.
First off, let's talk tech, and I can't even unmute myself, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. So when it comes to, I love the idea, the authentication portion of it, ensuring that, because botting is a massive problem.
Yes.
As somebody who loves data, I'm not surprised, but I would love to get my dirty little fingers on seeing some of that bot data, like how much overblown, how much cleanup needs to take place, how much antiquated.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And so I was sitting back and thinking about this, and we have like these areas, these playgrounds, essentially, like we'll use Twitch, for example. I'm not picking on Twitch. Please don't cancel us. But sorry, that was Bill Twitch is really angry with me right now.
Old man Twitch, he's up there.
They have like, partnership spotlights, which is means you good graces, you get a little more leeway, and there's a monetization piece in there as well. Is there any idea of like, obviously they don't have the limitations that you have, right? You want to partner with them, you want to work with them. I mean, is there going to be like a two-way street, or you are going to say, hey, Twitch, we're with you, but is there a way for you to have that versatility to say, we're not going to allow this though? Does that make any sense at all?
You mean like integrating Twitch into Tribela?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we would only allow verified crossover. So
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the issue with bots. I mean, not to go down the rabbit hole of the bots,
Right.
but bots, fake accounts, the ability to use that from my marketing experience, you're using the same vulnerabilities that you use in crime. And so the industry is so reliant on these bots. Like if you look at Facebook, fake accounts, all of this stuff, it's a business. It's a business, and people have been able to manipulate their attention, that where they're placing on the feeds, by hijacking the algorithm, by employing bots to get more engagement. And it's become this, you're not engaging with humans anymore. People are putting it on a site, planning out their 2 weeks of content, getting bots to like it, commenting on it, retweet it. And where's the human part of that?
Yeah, there was just an article. It's wild in Wired that, before, you and us three would have this conversation and just be like, it just goes to the pay no mind box, right? The email just to delete. Don't worry about it. Out of sight, out of mind. However, it's now getting to the point where it's so fictitious. The fictitious data is interacting now with the fictitious data, making actual movements in the marketplace, meaning it's so when you say crime's happening, it's just like now it's sending, shockwaves, because they're now interacting with each other. This fake, data.
And there was a statistic report that Facebook blocked over 4 billion bots in 1 year. And the average, they're saying that Facebook's anywhere, or Meta has anywhere between 5 to 20% bots, fake accounts, anonymous profiles. I mean, from a pure business perspective, you start realizing why it's kind of a little bit out of control for them to get rid of this without seeing a dramatic plummet of their stock price that's connected to their users.
Yeah. The big thing was Elon Musk was right about Twitter, but Elon Musk also never got rid of them when it was X. So
there's even more now.
I think, Natalie brings up a really valid point, is you have to budget for that manpower, actual physical manpower, to delete them, but you're also admitting to your world that cybersecurity is a problem on our platform. So the stock would, you really are shooting yourself in the foot trying to remove a problem.
You have less clicks and views. The one thing that actually drives the Google ads. So
and that's the thing is I was reading about a class action lawsuit in the US by advertisers that were saying that, wait a second, those weren't humans that were looking at our ads, that you charged us per click. And so you're seeing a lot of that. But you're also seeing maybe you're not going to have 1 million followers anymore because those bots aren't going to be following you. Maybe you're only going to have 100,000, and then your ego is going to take a hit. And that's really what Elon Musk saw when he started getting rid of the bots early on, was people's numbers were going down, and they thought it was because the site wasn't popular anymore. And then it was and then magically he stopped talking about it. And
it's just up and just, it wasn't a problem anymore.
It wasn't a problem anymore. But it's a big problem.
Sorry.
I imagine if I got him on the show and talked to him about it, he'd find a way to fire me too.
Yeah. He's not going to want us to talk about it, but it's a big problem, and it needs to be addressed.
It is.
And I think
if it was just a business problem, I would walk away from it and let business deal with it. But it's affecting humans. It's affecting children. It's affecting adults, and even it's not just children. There are seniors who get caught up in this, and they don't realize that they're completely manipulated, that they're seeing things that is intentional to change their advertising. I was in advertising and marketing when I did my social media stuff. I grew up, my dad owned advertising companies, and I've known this my whole life.
You know this.
My whole life, advertising is designed to do one thing. It's designed to change your mind. When you combine that with politics, and you combine it with everything else in life, when now it is in everything, you've probably not read anything today. Everybody watching this, you, Natalie, you, Zaz, we have not read anything that didn't come to us with advertising money in some form. It could be a book, could be a website, could be whatever. Advertising has helped pay for it. And advertising's only job is to change your mind. So think about what you're actually putting in your head sometimes, and who paid for it to be there. And I think that's something a lot of people are missing. And it terrifies me a little bit. I also live in that world. I'm not a conspiracy theorist going, oh, they're controlling me. But really? A little bit, they are.
But, coming from media, you have advertising on all of the old school channels. We've always had advertising. And I think that when it's like advertising, there's manipulation there all the time. You're trying to convince people through, back in the day, it was like through the beautiful models, you want to buy their shirt, that type of thing. But when you're also detailing and profiling a user down to their itty bitty vulnerability,
too far,
manipulating that vulnerability for their engagement and then monetizing it, I think that that's where it becomes really problematic. I think that, a small business advertising or, even, when you're posting the podcast, that's an advertisement for the podcast. Is that bad? No. But if you hijacked people and manipulated them, and what I was seeing, I have to say this because I was so disappointed. There's a podcast that I absolutely love, and I'm not going to mention which one it is. I went on the Instagram account. They were getting tons of engagement on their posts. And there was people purposely switching the conversation and getting people really angry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, are you really doing this? You're a positive podcast. I'm like, how could you be deploying this? And I looked, and sure enough, they were all fake accounts.
Yep.
Purposely getting the audience to basically catfight on Instagram. And you could see it was completely manipulated and intentional. And then I'm going, okay, but then that audience is getting anxiety. They're getting worked up. They're angry behind their Instagram post. I'm like, so you're doing that so they stay on that feed? Because if they just liked the feed, they would be like, oh, that was a nice episode. Goodbye. But now they're invested.
They're invested. Yeah.
You're like, oh, no, I don't agree with that. That's not what the episode was about, And then
I need to get on there and I need to be an expert in it.
Yes. And then you have them there for like 2 days checking to see the comments on their comments because they were so you've now rewarded behavior that is not healthy for anyone. And so
they've rewarded your bad behavior financially, even.
Exactly.
It's a cyclone. And I love the fact that you're going into this and you're bringing it up, making people aware. I have seen it, and the one thing we also do an advice show. It's not just interviews. In our advice show, I've given this advice out, and I've given out my whole life. The easiest way to control somebody is to get them angry. Do not let somebody make you angry. Like, it's just a way to control you, and that's exactly what's happening in those posts where they're like, "I'm going to rile you up. I'm going to say something. You're going to come back. You're going to find your niche. You're going to want to become an expert in us or the subject, and now you're ours." They've been controlled through their anger, and so whenever I encounter something that makes me upset or tries to, I wonder what the motivation is. And I think that's one of those skills that we need to start putting into people who want to be on the internet, from children to adults. If you're angry, ask why.
Exactly.
And nobody does it anymore. So
media literacy is gotta be a new, subject matter to study at an early age.
It is. It's starting to be, but on that point is exactly the point of Tribela. Is then people look at that conversation and then they say, social media is so toxic. Let's get rid of it. And it's like, was the humans connecting online together toxic, or was it the bot that was employed to make them angry? It's like, so I think that when you start identifying the design elements of the site, the incentivizing of engagement of all costs, and then looking at, okay, well, if we took that away, would social media be toxic? If we changed the way that's designed, would it be toxic? That's what the thesis of Tribela is.
I love it. I cannot wait to join it and be part of it and help it grow. And I think I just got an email on Monday or Tuesday of you're doing some crowdfunding. Do you want us to?
And then you can I can share that link with you.
Well, we have the link. It's real long for here right now. Josh can get it up, but we will also, it's on chuffed.org. And we'll also have that link in the description on the edited version of this. It's important. If you want to see something, and please remember that this week, and this was not planned, this week, the United States Surgeon General has come out with a plan and an initiative to put warnings or require social media sites to have warnings about this very stuff. So if you want to find another way around it, besides just awareness, if you want to support somebody who's actively trying to improve things, and I haven't been on Tribela yet, I'm not saying this is going to be, but I love the fact that we're on board philosophically. We're talking the same language, and I think that we need this. We need this. So thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's the big reason I wanted to have you here is because I read your page, I read the blogs on Tribela.com, what you're aiming for, that you're including children or younger people. I shouldn't say children. I'm 50, everybody's a child. That you're including people that will use this and trying to get their input and their feelings around it. So
yeah,
I'm impressed and I want to see this go somewhere.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, the reason for the crowdfunding is that not all the investors in the VC understand the importance of safety.
Yeah, well, I mean, investors in VC, they know what's worked in the past, and their job is to make money. And I get it. If you're going to change that, the conversation, it's a very different. It's a longer conversation. It is a deeper conversation. It could last months instead of, hey, I can get this many users, and if I have this many advertisers, I'll make this much money. Give me money to do it.
Exactly.
That's an easy conversation. That I don't like what those guys are doing. I think it's being done wrong. I think you do it better, and here's how. And then you also have to divulge all the trade secrets and all the little stuff that they can go and they're on a board somewhere else. Like, by the way, tough. It's tough. It's I appreciate you going through it. Having had some experience on a much smaller side of that, I really appreciate the work you're putting into it. Then that you can see this. It's another back to the beginning of the interview when you were 13. You saw that this is a bad place to be, and you found something. You educated yourself. You brought yourself up. And this is like moving to New York. This is that first big step. And I can't wait to see where you go with it.
Thank you. Yes, it is exactly that analogy. It's like a full circle.
And with that, we're a little bit over time. I want to thank you for your time, for coming here, for talking to us about everything, and for letting us delve into the non-showbiz side of things, because I know that there's a connection between producer and CEO. But I thought that this was an important conversation to have. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
But back to showbiz real quick. Anything you want to promote besides Tribela or your Chuffed fundraiser? Do you have anything coming up or anything your husband you want to push? Let's do it now. You can put that up, Josh.
Uwe just, came out with his film Run. He just finished in Croatia filming that. He's very excited about. So that would be coming out next year. And I have another project that I'm working on, which is a zero waste lifestyle show called Wastewise, which we just filmed a pilot of, and it's about zero waste living because I really, really am passionate about that. So lots of stuff, but Tribela is the big mothership.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to get out of here, guys. Do we want to do any end promo stuff?
I was going to jump in and say, check out the Bonnie Gordon interview. We just posted up the newest episode. I think it's part 4. And next week we have ourselves Taylor, the Taylor interview coming up.
Corelli? I can't pronounce it yet properly either. So, and Taylor is, like I said, Taylor's moving from New York to Los Angeles. She just got married recently. She's changing her whole life to delve deeper into the showbiz part of the world she wants to be in. And we're going to talk about all that and how life changes and how that affects relationships and how she's going to cope and deal with it all. So really looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to be checking out Tribela after this. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm going to be watching a movie. So
What movie?
What movie? Well, it has to do with a Canadian artist and these art projects. We just talked about it. You're there.
Yeah. I don't want to be just a kiss ass, but it's like, check out the cast for Run. After it's crazy. I just took a look. I was like, I'm sorry. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything. And I can't wait to see your zero waste show as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, let's roll us out of here, Josh. And everybody have a great evening. We did it. We did the thing.
We did the thing. All right, guys.